Hello. I thought I'd just share some thoughts with you today. Last night I went to the Littleport Village Hall where we hold our church service every Thursday and have done since 1998. And last night there weren't too many people attending either, but Reverend Nick decided that he would be able to film it on his phone, on his mobile, because the super duper technology let us down. And when I looked at it afterwards, as you do, and by the way, you can see it on the Littleport Christian Spiritualists Facebook page, and it's on YouTube as well, on Rev Nick Brown's YouTube channel. There were over 1,000 people who were watching it. But we couldn't have crammed all of them into the village hall. I remember very many years ago when Simone Key and I did a charity demo. There were people crammed in. I'm sure the fire regulations were breached, but never mind. It was in those days. And sort of people standing on tables at the back. And it was absolutely crammed full. But you see, we didn't get 1,000 people watching, or over 1,000 at that demo. Probably 190, something like that. Well, there you go. And the point of all this is that it's just such a marvellous way of life. It's such a fantastic thing to know about, that those we love are with us still. They're able to get through the services of a good medium and give us messages and communications that are quite incredible, and some that we don't even believe ourselves. But especially me. I came into this way of life because I was highly sceptical and I wanted to find out how they did it. It had to be a trick of some sort. My dad was a conjurer, and that's what they were called in those days. Now they're magicians, but it comes from the same thing. Apart from being a very good actor, singer, dancer, and of course a percussionist, because he was very good on the old drums. And he was a good singer too. He used to sing songs in the manner of Al Bowley, crooning, very lovely melodic voice. And in fact I heard him once at a séance when I was attending one at Stansted Hall, and they were playing some music, and I heard my father's voice as clear as day, singing along. Amazing. But anyway, I thought I would just say to you something about what happened after that service. Well, during the service I received a message from people who loved me, not people that I knew while they were alive, apart from I think it was my mum who came through. Of course it was, yeah, sorry. But I was quite amazed at receiving messages from my great-grandfathers, and they were talking about my writing. Okay, I thought. And they were saying about how I hadn't done my book that I should be doing about my own life and so on. And I thought, well, that's strange, because I know I've actually written my life story from dot to sort of up to 1985 when I stopped. I couldn't do any more. And they were going on about this book, and it should be from a philosophical point of view. And I thought, I was thinking to myself, well, I don't know how I'm going to cope. I don't think so. Don't know how that would work. And sort of not poo-pooed it, but I thought, well, I'll take all that with a pinch of salt. I mean, I know that what they were saying to me was the truth, because Rev John Ennis, who was a medium, was certainly giving me lots of evidence that these were my great-grandparents, and also other stuff that he was chucking in, that they were chucking in, absolutely positive stuff. So I knew it was them, but I couldn't really make head or tail of why they would say that to me, and I didn't know how I would do it. No, more to the point, that was a bit beyond me, actually, to organise that one. I thought my life story is a philosophical treatise. I don't think so. I could try. I wasn't sure how or what. Anyway, last night when I got home after the service, of course with Kathy, because Kathy does healing there as well, before and after the service, I had a message from one of my daughters asking me if I had a phone number for my foster sister. And I did have it, but in an old diary. So Kathy said, oh, I'll have a look through for you. Anyway, she came up with one that was 2009. And I said, no, that I know that her number is in one that was about 2003 or something. So Kathy gave me a lecture about bringing all my things up to date and putting them in my current diary and stuff, which is fairly blank. I forget to do stuff like that, or I don't do it, I should say. Anyway, there was this diary that she brought me, and I said, well, that's not going to be any good. I don't think that her number's going to be in it. And I left it on the desk overnight. So I got up this morning, as usual, fairly early. And, well, the early bird catches the worm, I always say. Caught a few worms in my time. Speaking of my autobiography. And I thought, okay, I'll just have a look at it. And I opened it. Here's the diary itself. As we're sort of chatting, you can see it. You can see it says 2009 to 10. And I opened it, as one does, just opened it. And I was amazed, because there, you will see, there's all sorts of writing in that. And I'd opened it on the 2 pages, one of which started the 29th of October, which was my father's birthday, 29th of October. My father was born a long time ago on the 29th of October. And of course I'd underlined it and stuff, you know. But then I looked at it, because I'd scribbled all over it. And I thought, whatever was I scribbling all over that for? You can see the other pages are still fairly blank. There's Kathy's words at the top there saying, hold on, I have to change my glasses now. I've been changing glasses since I was very young, so it's not a thing that comes to me with old age, it's just a thing. And Kathy's writing on October the 30th said, demo, evening of clairvoyance, Lynn taking it. So obviously I did a demo. On the Saturday the 31st, October the 31st, Halloween, Viv's do, I've put lovely. So obviously my sister had organised a disco for Halloween, because that's what my sister has always done best, you know, like hosting parties. And we're chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese. My little sister. Of the feather boa and sequined outfits. And all her places have room for pony, if anybody follows Keeping Up Appearances. Well, what I wrote was, Lynn Guest-de-Swart. Well, that was my name, you see, before it became Gibb-de. My name was Lynn de-Swart before it became anything else. And I'd written an unusual life so far. I thought, really? this was, I had to look at the date again, 2009. And there was I saying to the medium after the service, well, I have written my life story actually from dot to sort of 1985, but then it stopped because in 1985, really, all my life changed so drastically, really. And of course, I was writing. I'd been writing about a year by then, sort of properly, if you know what I mean, getting reports in, stuff, papers and things. And I was launching a magazine and all sorts of things were going on. And so I thought, 1985, well, that was it really, because everything else that I've done since 1985 is all sort of catalogued anyway, and people will make what they want of it. So in a way, I sort of dismissed myself as having anything sort of valid to say about the situation myself, leaving it to other people to criticise or otherwise. And I was so shocked because I'd had that message last night about a philosophical, autobiography, and talking about relating it to my spiritualism and things like that. And here it is. And oh yes, and the message said, if anybody checked it out, I think the medium said on behalf of my great grandparents that I'd started about 15 years ago. I thought, no, I don't think so. Anyway, I suppose 2009 from 2021, we can give them about 15 years. So yeah, not bad. Mediums are notoriously a bit iffy on dates. I don't know why. It's just how it happens. I think maybe them on the other side get a bit scrambled as well, because of course in eternity, what's 15 years or 10 years or 20 years or 100 years come to that. And so what I'd written, that heading, An Unusual Life, and then so far, was quite extraordinary. And I read on, and I'd written this, and I'll tell you what I'd written, because I'm going to continue with it. Excuse me, it's a bit early. Never too early for a cup of tea. And I must say, when I washed this morning, I was washing with hot water and soap, of course. And I thought to myself, have I got this soft? I'm washing with hot water. I never used to. I was always the one with the cold water. So I thought, no, I'm going to have a slosh with cold water. And I did. And I had a good laugh. It was definitely a shock to the old system, I tell you. Guarantee it to wake you up even more than you've woken already. Do that if you can. A good splosh of cold water does wonders. Now, this is what I'd written. My father died on the 1st of February 1991. So much for 1985 and all is done. My life had been so entwined with his that I felt as though I had died. Not the usual starting point for an autobiography, but then my own life hasn't been what you may call usual. As I sat beside my father's body that morning, I would alternate between reading the Bible that I'd opened at random at the book of Job and what does it say there? And his lifeless sorry, it's very, very scribbled. It's lifeless. Looking at him lying there, apparently lifeless, sorry. So when I opened I opened a Bible at random, the book of Job, which I can still remember doing, of course, vividly even now, and looking at him lying there, apparently lifeless, under the white sheet that covered him up to his chin, and feeling that he was standing across that room from me and looking at me and his inert frame too. I wasn't in this way of life. I was not what you call a spiritualist. I didn't really know what a spiritualist meant, or it never occurred to me what a spiritualist was at that time. And I say, his hair was like mine. This is 2009, remember. He had black hair, but sprinkled with grey. And his eyes, half open, the same as mine and my eldest son's. He'd been generous with his lovely black long eyelashes as well. I decided after a few hours went by to snip a curl as a keepsake and return home. My own life was to change dramatically once again. Well, I have that snip of hair. It's sort of just one tiny little curl, and it's kind of separated over the years. It's in a little plastic container, a little plastic wallet thing that I went across. He passed away in the Edgware General Hospital, and I went out of there and I crossed the road and I went into a chemist and I bought a little pack of scissors in a plastic container, and little nail scissors, trimming scissors, and I went back across to where my dad's body was, to the chapel again, and I snipped a little lock, a little curl of his hair, and I put it in the container that the scissors had been in, and that's where it's been ever since. And the thing is that I wasn't in this way of life, but I'd always been at what my mother always called strange. She used to ask people and me what planet they thought I'd come from. And when she asked me, of course, I used to look back at her blank, because I thought, well, take your pick, I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, so I was just wanting to talk to you about that and tell you what an amazing way of life this spiritualism is, because it was quite a while after that I was invited by my good friend and one-time skater at Streatham-Istrink, and of course I ended up running the Streatham Speed Club there for years, where I'd skated all my life. And Kay was a recruit, a willing recruit. She was the second sort of girl after me to actually join the club, because before that, if any girls had ventured onto the ice at all, they weren't allowed to be members. And she was a spiritualist, and she knew how devastated I was. I couldn't get over the death of my father, and I had loads of things going on, and she kept saying, why don't you come to church? And I thought, no, I can't. I said to her, Kay, I'm too busy, and apart from that, I'm Jewish, so I don't go to churches. Forgetting, of course, that I had gone to churches quite often and enjoyed it. But put it this way, I came from a family where I was chosen to sing in the choir at school, and I was not allowed to participate in the carol services or a carol concert. So I actually made an excuse in order to bring that about, because I wanted so much both things. I wanted to sing the carols and I wanted to be in the choir, and I wanted to join in with this Christmas festivity. So when I was 14, in fact, I managed to scrape my way out of home for the amount of time that it took to go to choir practice, and I didn't tell them I was going to be in the concert. I made some other excuse that I had to go back to school for extra work or something, and I enjoyed that very much. But yes, so I just wanted really to say to you that this is a marvellous way of life. If you can get to a spiritualist church, as I did that time, I agreed with Kay eventually. I said, yes, I will come. And she took me to Croydon Spiritualist Church in Chatsworth Road, which is still there. And to cut a long story short, I watched all these people getting messages, God bless you to the medium, and yes, and I thought to myself, well, I can see all these people wandering about on the platform, on the stage as I saw it, with this medium, but she seemed to be able to hear them and see them clearly. I could see them sort of fairly reasonably well, but I couldn't hear anything they were saying. And I thought, this is fascinating. There must be some kind of trick to this. Anyway, I went home and told Kathy all about it. I think she thought I'd lost it completely. And then the medium was on again, and Kay said to me, do you want to come and see Ivy Scott again? I said, oh yes, I will. Well, she came to me. She gave me a message from my dad, who I could see, and my bubba, my mum's mum, and my Uncle Barney, who'd been torpedoed in the war, and stuff like that. And I thought, and the things that she was saying to me, my dad, you see, and I did a little double act when I was 7 years old. I went with him to one of his engagements. He was a song and dance man and a stand-up comic, as well as everything else. And we'd learned a dance routine together, a soft shoe shuffle, and Nothing Can Be Finer Than to Be in Carolina in the Morning. I think it was the Leatherhead Working Men's Club or something. Anyway, and I was a stooge in the audience, you see. Is there any little girl here who would like to come and join me? Well, there I was. And then he had to say to me, now you've never seen me before in your life, have you, little girl? And I said, no, Daddy. And that, of course, got a laugh. And then we got into a routine together and so on. Anyway, Ivy Scott said to me, your father, she said, I can't believe that you know this. She said, but there are people called Flanagan and Allen. Yes, I looked a lot younger than I was. And she said, singing Me and My Shadow. Now, that was the soft shoe routine. The Carolina in the Morning was my routine. And the soft shoe shuffle that we did was to Me and My Shadow, like Flanagan and Allen. Me and my shadow, diddly-dee, little taps. And anybody knows what a soft shoe shuffle is, or you can look it up. And she said, and he's singing Me and My Shadow. Yes. And he says, he will be your shadow now. Well, I was totally speechless throughout all this. I was just nodding and nodding. When I got home, I said to Kathy, I've got to find out how they do this. There's got to be something to this. There's got to be a trick. Anyway, I went along to Lewisham Spiritualist Church the next night. Or was it the next night? No, it couldn't have been. A couple of days later. The Sunday night service. And I got another message, another musical message from my dad. And this time it was Elvis. An Elvis song and so on. So anyway, there you are. That is how I actually came into this way of life. Through being devastated at my father's passing. And here I am today, having a little chat and telling you all about it. So you're going to be the first to know that I am now embarking on that philosophical autobiography, and it's going to begin just where I thought it wouldn't. I thought that, it would start at the beginning, as you think, sort of pretending to remember being pushed out, or going down the tunnel to what we think of as light. But of course, the first thing we do is have a good cry. No, not this place. No. I want to go back to where I was before. I thought it would be one of those, and that's what I'd done. I'd written all the bits and bobs of everything, that I could remember, as people do, because I've read a few people's biographies, autobiographies, that is, and the most famous, of course, is about remembering, being born or something, and the earliest recollections, and then it goes on from there. And of course, that's what I'd done. And it turns out that, as my great-grandparents said to me, that my two great-grandfathers, that's not what I'm going to be doing. And I'm going to start with 1991, and my father's birthday, and my father died on the 1st of February 1991, and that, without me knowing, started everything on my pathway, and it's going to start my philosophical autobiography. And I hope that Be'ezrat Hashem, as we say, with the help of God, that I'll be able to finish that. And yes, and even last night, Reverend Nick's address talked about not being too old to do anything, and it was either Rev Nick's or Rev Ennis's. But anyway, the point is this, that I silently thought to myself, well, I know that Moses was 80 when he heard the voice in the burning bush, and I'm sure that he used to argue a lot, with God, with Spirit. And people do. And once upon a time, when I was developing early on, some leader of a circle reduced me to a quaking, tearful mass when she said that if I continue to argue with Spirit, they will leave me. Not very nice. I knew that wasn't true in my heart. I knew that wasn't true. Couldn't be. But she was very nasty, so I didn't go back to that circle. And anyway, she moved on, and I still remained in the place where I'd gone to that circle, Lewisham. And there we are. So I hope that you enjoyed our little chat this morning. I enjoyed speaking with you. Don't forget, and of course, I think the medium last night mentioned, if you hear it, that I have written other books. Of course I have. There's the Spiritualist Handbook, there's the hymn book that I've contributed to, Rev Nick's published, and Rev Nick publishes them, and just marvellous, really. He's an absolutely fantastic person, and he started out in my circle when he was just a teenager. And yeah, so I hope that you can pursue your own spiritual pathway in whichever way you choose. But I'm just telling you about mine. And I shall now go and take all the tablets I'm supposed to take, the anti-cancer ones that wreck you. And but never mind, the alternative's worse. And yes, I'll have a little breakfast, because that's always exciting, isn't it, to be able to do that. And I do hope that any of you who are watching, who have problems, whether it's because you can't eat, or that somehow or other you'll receive some sustenance. And I think the best sustenance of all is a spiritual kind. So I hope you have some good thoughts today, and I'll speak to you again. And yes, there we are. I've got a task that I was told about last night in a message from Spirit at my local spiritualist church meeting, and I do recommend that you find that. or of course there's all the online services now, and I actually gave one myself this week, and for Bridlington Angel of Light Christian Spiritualists, and that's also on Facebook if you want to see it. And of course, yes, I'm being told to remind you that I have a YouTube channel, and there's loads of meditations and talks and various things on there. And of course, it's all mixed up with ice skating and family stuff and everything, but you know, have a look through. There's hundreds of videos to have a look at and take a pick, you know, some long, some short. The two that Reverend Nick Brown made, development mediumship videos, they're about 45 minutes long each, but there are some short meditations, prayers, and short services, all sorts of stuff. So, you know, if you Google Lynn Gibb-de Swart, I think all sorts of stuff comes up. Lynn Guest-de Swart, of course, all sorts of stuff comes up. And Lynn de Swart, all sorts of stuff comes up. So there you go. So I say God bless you. It's been lovely speaking with you. And as I said, I'm going to go and sort out what I have to do for the morning. And lots of love.